I don't know how I came up with this dumb idea. Thanks YouTube, I guess. But I've got 6 different hot wings here, 6 different hot sauces, starting with something on the mild side and ended up with something at 2 million Scovilles that looks kind of pasty and probably is going to be awesome. I really can't wait if you can hear the excitement in my voice. But it's 8 hot wings. Lance is going to ask me some questions about IT and networking trends and kind of some of the stuff we've seen and some of the directions that our customers are going. So I think it'll be a good time. Hopefully it's enlightening for you. Hopefully it's not too painful for me, but we're recording. So if I cry, then we'll have proof of it.
Yeah, we will have record of it. And I think each question, Jay will increase the intensity of the hot sauce. So we're going to start small, a little before we get to the final end. So we'll see how much value he provides at the end of this, if he's even able to talk.
I hope you gave me ringers at the end, because it's not going to get any easier for me as we get closer to the end here. But
all right. So are we asking questions
that,
and then you're eating, or eating and then asking questions?
I'll eat, and I'll kind of show off the sauce we got and where we're at on the scale, and I'll let you ask the questions, and then I'll try my best to answer them. So starting off, I got the hot ones classic here. This is 1,800 Scoville, so that's probably still too hot for me, but here goes nothing.
Yeah, I think for most people, if they don't know you, you do not enjoy hot stuff anyways. So. So even the light hot's still not great.
That's true. And I never realized it, but I'm probably going to be self-conscious about eating on webcam. So this is like a perfect storm of terrible for me. All right, Lance, what you got?
All right, we'll kick it off.
That's not too hot.
Not too hot? All right, that's a plus. All right, well, first one we're going to go with. Are firewalls still relevant today? Do we even need them?
Yeah, of course we still need them. Okay, so firewalls have changed a lot, and I think the security landscape has changed a lot. And somebody probably has a record of me at some point saying firewalls aren't important anymore, aren't as important anymore. Security is an onion, right? And there's a lot of different approaches we have to take. It's not just the firewall. It used to be back in the days, right? Like we had this campus LAN we're trying to protect. Everybody comes into the office every day. They sit there, they work. Security is still an onion to them, but it's even more of an onion now that our workforces are distributed, right? I think COVID has really shown us that more than anything, right? We have more people working remote the last few weeks than ever. Endpoint protection, right? If our laptops, our Cisco laptops are perfect examples, right? I never work in the office. Closest office is 3 hours away. So I'm working at customer sites or partner sites or coffee shops. We need technology to know that our endpoints, our data, our customer data is protected, even if we're not behind those corporate firewalls, even if we're not VPN'd in, even if we're not in the office. That's where things like endpoint protection and remote content filtering and things like Umbrella, right? Multi-factor authentication, when we are logging in to different services especially from the outside, remote access VPN, a lot of folks have MFA deployed there, but there's a lot of different parts and pieces, I think, that make up a true security program.
Yeah. It's one of those that even if the firewall's not in place, for example, the endpoint, if you're just going to allow the internet access, if you're at a coffee shop, but you're still going to access apps or websites, you still need to ensure that without sending that traffic back to your data center. So the idea that you have that layer approach with the DNS security, endpoint security, and then also anti-malware virus protection if that device does get compromised. So I'm with you. It is still relevant, but it's kind of changed because so many of our work users are not behind one anymore, but we still need to apply security to them. So how do we do it?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of tech, even outside of security products, will lend itself to that, right? And we talk about SD-WAN a lot, and that's one where security is a really important piece of that puzzle, not just thinking about corporate HQ and outside corporate HQ, but if you have a distributed network with a lot of branches, you need to secure all those the same way too. with all the different cloud services and stuff out there, there's a lot of different ways we have to go about it. But it's more than just a firewall, for sure.
All right, let's go to the second one.
I just turn on a fan, man. It's getting hot in here. I don't know if it's the temperature
Just
or me.
one.
Yeah. It's not going to get easier. So this is Heartbeat hot sauce, pineapple habanero. I like pineapples.
That looks
I'm
intriguing.
not a real big fan of habaneros. 12,000 Scoville, so it's 10 times hotter than the one I just ate. Off to a good start here.
On a side note, I like the fact you did bones in for this instead of a boneless wing. So
That's another pet peeve of mine. I don't like bone-in wings. So
how are we feeling? What are we thinking?
I taste the pineapple.
You feel any heat? Does it feel like Georgia summer right now?
Hasn't hit me yet. That's not so bad.
All right. Hey, well, that's good.
Not so bad. That's actually super tasty.
Maybe this question will sting more than that hot sauce. Are you ready?
All right, let's hear it.
Voice. Where do most businesses stand today, and where is the industry going? Is voice almost still relevant?
You're supposed to save the easy ringers for the end, man. Like this one is it's easy for me because I'm a voice guy at heart, right? I cut my teeth doing voice. So kind of going back in time, not to take up too much time here, but when I started out in IT, I started out as an intern in an aircraft place here in Wichita, and they were just starting a VoIP project, and I started out doing like logistics work around that, like figuring out, what phone number belonged to who, so they'd figure out billing and all that good stuff. And eventually kind of moved up through that team and helped with a lot of that VoIP deployment. So, and since then, the thing about VoIP is like a lot of technologies, if you tell somebody you know it at all, they just assume you're an expert, and all of a sudden, like, you're the VoIP guy, huh? You worked on Call Manager one time. You're the VoIP guy. So I've kind of been the VoIP guy ever since. So voice is near and dear to my heart. I think that the industry as a whole, I've seen most folks are off of analog voice now. Most folks have moved into a VoIP environment. PSTN terminations, I see all over the board, right? A lot of folks still running T1s. Some folks still running POTS for like small site terminations or SRST terminations. For the most part, though, I see a lot more centralization now than before, right? So folks are wanting to set up a PBX at their corporate HQ or in the cloud and register phones to that and bring the voice traffic back into there. And I think the reason for that is less circuits to manage, right? Less points of egress and ingress, and telecom carriers don't do us a lot of favors, if I'm being honest. So they can be a bear to work with. So less is more, I think, when it comes to that. A lot of folks starting to move to cloud termination. So, we have WebEx calling on our side, but a thing I see in Wichita a lot, not as much in KC, but there's not a ton of voice engineers down here. So finding somebody good that can help you configure and deploy and maintain your voice environment can be a little bit painful. And I think for that, a lot of folks are trying to offload that management into a cloud-based, easier to manage solution where they can just push it all off-prem, say, okay, I need to add or change or delete a user, right? Regular MACD stuff I can have any admin do. I don't need a voice engineer to do it. And if something does go awry somewhere, I can just call up the help desk for Cisco or the partner, whoever they're working with, and let them figure it out. So I've seen a lot more of that.
Yeah, I've seen, so the reason that most of my experience, why we still have phone lines, is because a site that required faxing that couldn't be done either through email or something, is like faxing just will never go away. So you always have to have that dial tone. So then you got to support it. So like that, I feel hopefully one of these days we'll be done with faxing, or we can at least use email to fax. But that's from my experience, always there. Always have a phone line there for that. You got to set it up. And then,
well, I'm thinking of faxing, like, we have so many good fax over IP solutions now, but they're kind of all over the board, right? I mean, fax to email is a good example. Fax over T38 if your carrier supports it, right? We still work with carriers that don't. stuff like that. There's a lot of different technology out there, and it kind of varies based on the design of your network and your business needs, right? So if you have one big site, your needs are a lot different than a business with 400 smaller sites.
Yep.
So kind of varies based on that. I was going to say the one other thing we've seen a lot of, especially in the last few weeks with COVID, is soft client adoption, right? So a lot of folks now, because they're so mobile, don't need a hard phone. I mean, I don't have a hard phone here at Cisco. You know, I don't even have a desk in an office. But even if I did, like, you never know on a given day where I'm going to be. So it makes way more sense to have WebEx Teams or Jabber or some other soft phone client so I can take a call from anywhere, right, including on my cell phone. So I've seen a lot more of that.
With the call features too, you can just set up your redirect number in the cloud and it'll send it to your cell phone. Or if you want to register somewhere else, you don't have to do it on the actual phone. You have to go to Call Manager. So there's a few perks on moving it to the cloud. The biggest things I've seen are people that have started moving either like DR to the cloud, and then they start questioning, well, why do I even want my phone on prem if I'm going to move these other sources up there and my data center crashed, and where am I going to do with my call manager? To where if you're small enough, you can change your sizing to cloud calling if you're under 1,000 users, with at least with Cisco, but everybody's a little bit different, to where if you want to try and move things out to the cloud, having a phone prem on site, doesn't make sense. That you can tweak those to whatever you want to really work towards. So,
right. Video is another big driver too. I mean, since I'm sitting here looking at you, I'm realizing, like, obviously that's been a hot topic of ours the last couple of months with COVID, and even before that. But folks want to be able to meet from anywhere, and the face-to-face interaction, you can't beat it. Even if it is over a webcam, that's better than audio only.
Well, Jay and I also just took a class yesterday where they were able to track attention. So, so they want those meetings to be able to know if you have other tabs open and are you actually paying attention to what's being said. So, a few other delicates that come in there.
And that's interesting technology. I mean, it's a little creepy from the end user perspective.
Yes.
But like Cisco certifications, right? We're going to start doing those from home in some cases, just because of this whole COVID deal, and you don't want folks to be cheating, so you got to track where their eyes are wandering somehow, and that's only one of like 100 use cases, but there's a lot of really cool tech that goes with that.
Okay, let's go to the next one. What's Wing 3?
All right, so for Wing 3, we're up into Los Calientes, which I think is Spanish for the hot ones. 36,000 Scovilles. So, boy.
Well, you might be surprised. The second one didn't seem too hot.
That's true.
I'm waiting for the one that as soon as you just touch it, you instantly start like, it explodes.
You're a sick puppy, Lance.
That's what it makes it for, Jay. I'm just saying it.
It's definitely warmer. It's tasty. I can't tell what's in there. It's like fruit or something of that. Oh, no, just chilies.
Just
chilies. Apricot. There's like 7 ingredients down the list after all the chilies. There's apricot. Wish they would have put that part higher.
All right. Well, let's see if you can talk. We're going to move on to, why are we installing 5G or this Wi-Fi 6 thingy? What's the difference between these two?
Oh, okay. Well, obviously 5G is like mobile carrier network, right? And that's what the Verizons and Sprints and the AT&Ts of the world are rolling out as the next iteration, like 4G LTE. Wi-Fi 6 is the successor to Wi-Fi 5. 802.11ax, right? Which is a successor to 802.11 AC Wave 2. So I like this question. This isn't what you asked me. This is where I'm going to go with it anyway. I've had folks ask me, like, is 5G going to replace the need for Wi-Fi? No, definitely not. To give an idea of speed, like I think 5G, they're looking to max out up near a gigabit connectivity. Wi-Fi 6, I think on marketing paperwork at least maxes out at like 1.3 gig. and we can talk more about the advantages of Wi-Fi 6 above and beyond that. But I think there's two reasons why we're still going to have enterprise Wi-Fi, even in the world of 5G. One, access to local resources, right? A lot of our customers are not fully cloud-baked, fully, off-premise baked solutions. They still got to be able to access file servers and databases and applications that are on-premise. So pure internet, pure unadulterated internet is good for some of our processes, not all of them. We still have access to those internal resources. The other big barrier, I think, and this is like purely conjecture, my opinion, but mobile carriers aren't known for being loose with the data and the data costs. And I think as the speeds go up, they're not going to get looser. So, I'm stoked for 5G. I live in the country. I mean, I don't know what my video looks like to you guys right now, but it's probably not great. It usually isn't. I'm on 12 meg DSL, which is an upgrade from what I used to have. But I'm stoked for 5G because maybe I'll be able to get faster fixed wireless internet out here.
Yep.
But until carriers, loosen the reins on those pricing models, I don't think it's even a good use case for that. But
yeah, 'cause that's the difference. Is you actually have to register each device you're going to use with the 5G, and where wireless is different, you just authenticate to be able to get on to use it. It's one of those, I've seen cases where if you've got a factory, a carrier will put in a tower to be able to cover those if you wanted to go that route instead of trying to hook up wireless through everything. So you're looking at a cost reduction, but then you've got the monthly cost of, all right, you have 30 devices that are going to use internet. You've got to have SIMs or some way to register with your tower. Then you're paying a monthly cost rather than the infrastructure cost to have the Wi-Fi for it. So it's one of those that long term, like which one would you rather look at? You don't get a lot of control, like you can't open up the ability for others to connect to with the 5G. And there's also, depending on, like there's 3 different waves: low band, medium band, high band, and which are you trying to just get coverage, or you actually want speed? Because if you do speed, you're not gonna, the coverage isn't as far as you really think it is. To where at least with the Wi-Fi, if you're just trying to cover buildings, you can set those up on your floor. You can still track. So it's just good to know the differences between those. But
yeah, and sorry, I'm scrambling for paper towels and Kleenexes and all my emergency vehicles here.
Man, we're only on 3.
No, the other thing about Wi-Fi 6 I like to point out is, a lot of folks say, well, I don't need faster Wi-Fi, and that's fair. Like a lot of places we're starting to hit other bottlenecks in the network.
Yep.
If let's just say I can run 1.3 gig on one client, potentially I'll be running multiple gigs by the time I get my 12 or 15 or 25 clients, however many end up on an AP and in actual production scenarios. So then the bottleneck may become your uplink from the switch to the AP, right? So that's where multi-gigabit starts to kick in. Folks have been looking at multi-gigabit technology, where we can run 2.5, 5, 10 gigabits even over existing Cat6 cabling, as long as the switch and the AP both support MGig, right? Or, beyond that, I mean, bottlenecks maybe in the data center or at the internet edge if the customer or end user is using internet browsing. So the other big benefits, though, are better density, right? So MIMO, we've had it a long time, even before Wi-Fi 6, but we've expanded the number of spatial streams. So it used to be up to 4 spatial streams, now it's 8, which means we can send 8 different signals out of that WAP at a time to 8 different clients. And we can break that up even further with ODFMA, which is Wi-Fi 6 exclusive and allows us to break those spatial streams down into smaller bits and pieces. So, potentially we can serve at a given millisecond, 16 or more clients at a time compared to, the 4 we used to have before. So it really helps because density is a problem, right? I mean, I've got 3 Wi-Fi devices in front of me right now, and I'm one guy. So, you get into a corporate environment, and a lot of folks have, 2 or 3 at a time. So.
Yep. All right, let's go to 4. Hope you're ready. There's no bailing out now.
All right, so we're going off the deep end here. This is Hellfire Detroit. They have their own little Scoville scale on the back here, and this one they put under yikes.
Ooh.
Between 1 and 350,000 Scovilles. The uncertainty probably scares me the most. If you guys don't know how hot it is and you make it, not good. All right.
I'm going to ask the question everybody wants to know. If you don't make it, can I have your stuff? What are we feeling?
Hot.
That was bad.
Very hot. and vinegary. It doesn't really taste like anything other than hot vinegar on chicken, on frozen chicken wings.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
All right.
I'm gonna
I'll
survive
let you
that.
take
I'm
it.
gonna survive that.
Okay. I was like, you can take some breaths real fast while I tee up this question for you.
All right.
All right. So, how do you feel about the cloud? And we kind of talked about cloud calling, but much more towards data center applications.
I feel like these Scoville units are getting up into the cloud now. So, boy, that's a broad question. I could talk for hours about that. So what I've seen, I got customers like all over the spectrum on where they're at on cloud adoption. I got some customers are like all their workloads are in the cloud. I got other customers that are totally cloud averse and are really nervous about adopting O365 as their first SaaS or cloud initiative. And I got a lot of customers that are somewhere in between there, right? Like they are starting to adopt cloud for a specific set of applications or dev and test, or they run a few SaaS apps, right? Like O365 and SFDC and stuff like that, but a lot of different brands are using. But what I have seen a big uptick in is adoption of technologies that allow folks to move between multiple on-prem data centers and potentially different public clouds. So on the Cisco side, specifically on the data center networking side, ACI, right, allows us to do that. We can stretch layer 2 between different data centers, as well as different public cloud offerings like AWS or Azure. Yep. Containerization, like Kubernetes, is all the hotness right now, especially for dev guys and gals. And some folks are using like Hyperflex to house those containered applications on-prem. Then they can also offload those containerized applications off into the cloud. And that can all be orchestrated, right? Stuff that used to take us days, weeks, months, we can do in like a course of a few minutes. So it's been an interesting shift, I think, in technology. But everybody has a different rate of adoption on that. I think it depends on the type of customer and the use cases too, right? Like some customers are a smaller shop and already have an on-prem data center and don't have a very distributed workforce, and so it doesn't make as much sense to start moving that direction as quickly. Other customers are all over the place and have 7 or 10 data centers, and like, well, why am I managing all these? HVAC and UPS, all stuff can get a little expensive. So a hybrid approach usually makes the most sense. What have you seen?
Especially it's like
I'm the one turning up over here.
DR is a pretty big one I've seen, to where it's one of those, why am I going to pay a cost like my own in-housing when I can go to someone that's got DR as a service, or I can spin up a few instances if I need to inside AWS or Azure. I don't have the cost, like you said, of having HVAC. I don't have a UPS on there. I don't have to do a generator. I don't have to test all these things all the time. I don't have to worry about, oh, we flipped over and it didn't work and I got to flip back over real fast. So like trying to coordinate those maintenances. I've seen a lot of moving a few things over there and testing to see what failover looks like. And then my personal thoughts are, I like the cloud for a lot of testing dev, to where you can spin it up. It doesn't cost that much when you get up there. If it's a hit, if it's a user-facing web client and that thing starts generating, pull it back down into your on-prem to where you have an idea what those fixed costs are going to look like, and you can expand it as needed, to where when you're in the cloud and that thing takes off, you're going to be stuck. I don't know how much I'm going to use. I don't know how much this is expanding. I don't know what my monthly cost is going to be now, to where you're going to get hit with that Amazon bill, and you got to pay it, because if you don't, they're going to turn it off, and there goes any extra revenue that you're supporting. So it's kind of
and it
a
does
little bit
seem
everywhere.
the most successful hybrid deployments are where they can move rapidly back and forth between the two, right?
Gotta be
Or
agile.
distribute it. We're starting to see a lot more cloud management too. I mean, got to give Meraki some love, right?
Yeah.
They're obviously a popular one that's been around for a while, and they're still gaining ground. But even outside
Cisco
of
in
that,
a whole, like you've got our security products that are going to be like StealthWatch, Cloud. You got Meraki.
AMP.
Yep, AMP. I think we're at least talking about putting DNAC Cloud to where you're going to have to have on-prem. So I mean, even us as an industry have looked at, instead of putting these appliances on, put it in the cloud, and then you can access it anywhere in our sites. Be able to access what's happening in your data center environment from your mobile without having a VPN in to look at alerts. You can just check your health scores there immediately. So we've at least embraced it from the Cisco side as far as management. And so it's one of those that I think we're going to continue to see that happening to where it makes sense to go ahead and do it.
Yeah, I agree completely.
All right. What's the next one? I would see tears. I'm disappointed.
The names are getting more sinister. I mean, the original was just called, the first one was called the Classic, right? Nobody's afraid of a sauce called the Classic. Everybody's had a Classic before.
Everybody likes the Classic.
This is the Widowmaker.
Oh, I hope you told your wife you're doing this.
If she wasn't working, she'd be watching from downstairs. she enjoys it. 682,000 Scovilles. So
and that's also
like
never
400
used,
times
right?
hotter than this one.
It looks like you've just opened it. Like you've not used this.
I did.
It still
I
looks
just
cool.
opened. So, a lot of these sauces, I'd say about half these sauces I've never had before. This is my first time having them. So, and this is one of them. And I live in fear.
Oh, the moment. The worst ones are like, it's fine. And then about 10 seconds later, it hits you, and you're like, you want bread? I want a tortilla. I want milk. I want ice cream. I don't care. Just good.
That one, like, it hits my tongue, and it tastes so good. And then, like,
Yep.
10 seconds later, it kills me.
All right. I'll give you a few moments to breathe. What does intent-based networking mean? So if you see IBN, or if you do the intent-based thought process, what are we talking about here when we see intent-based networking?
So, oh man, this is a good time. We should definitely do this every Memorial Day. So, intent-based networking is a marketing term, and usually I finger wag marketing terms.
Yeah.
But I haven't found a better way to describe what we're trying to do there other than the term intent-based networking. I love it. And from a Cisco product standpoint, I think the products we're usually talking about with IBN is ACI we mentioned earlier.
Yep.
Software-defined access for the campus LAN, and SD-WAN on the WAN side. But the gist is that, we talked earlier about how distributed and spread out the workforce is getting. We've managed security and networking needs by IP addresses and switch ports for so long. But now all these users are mobile, right? They're on the go. And even if they're not outside corporate, right? They may be sitting at this desk today. Like we're starting to talk about desk sharing with a lot of customers. Maybe sitting at a different desk next week. They may be sitting at a different desk later this afternoon while they're collaborating with somebody, or they're in a conference room, and maybe on wireless or wired, or maybe in a different building. How do we apply the same policies and rule sets to that customer and end user, regardless where he or she is sitting? Yep. Regardless of what device they're on, right? It used to be we had one desktop we worked from. Now we've got our mobile phone, we've got our tablet. Maybe we want different rules for what they can access on their mobile phone or their tablets and what they can get to on their laptop. That's the core idea of intent-based networking. I'm gonna have a hiccup.
You're gonna make it, man.
Terrible. I could see the finish line. No, really, it's a bunch of technologies all working together to achieve that, right? It's no one technology. We talk about software-defined access. Software-defined access is not a box that, we sell you and you plug in and it gives you intent-based networking.
Yep.
It's a series of different products that all work together to do that. It's the Catalyst 9Ks, iOS XE, 802.1x, right, on those. It's ICE to do the authentication and the profiling and the posturing and to manage those rule sets. I was mentoring somebody a couple weeks ago, and I think I came up with a perfect analogy for that. ICE is like the legislative branch, right? They make the rules. And then the switches and WAPs and the parts and pieces of the SDA deployment are they're the cops, right? Like they enforce the rules. they put the DACLs on the switch ports or on the wireless streams and actually do the enforcement. And there's other parts and pieces to that too, right? DNA Center is the brains of the operation. It kind of ties it all together. Stealth Watch we can use for visibility, with encrypted traffic analytics and all that stuff. That allows us to view what's going on inside encrypted payloads without decrypting it, which is becoming important with TLS 1.3 and whatnot.
I think the other really thing to mention about Stealth Watch is the importance of knowing if a device is doing something that's out of behavior based too. So, this device usually just sends a couple of kilobytes a day, and then out of nowhere you're sending megabytes or a gig download, and you're trying to figure out that should not be happening. And knowing what's happening in your environment so that we can react quickly, because a lot of any more malware as you get it starts probing, it's generating traffic. That traffic you wouldn't have noticed unless you were actually watching for that type of stuff happening on your network. And most of the time you're worried about external out. Once it's already in, then it's trying to spread. It's looking for, do I have shares? Are there other PCs that close to me? Where's my domain controller? Where's my DC services that then I can try and hit and encrypt? So it's sprawling east and west. And most of the time we're not monitoring east and west. We care about this user's using so much internet bandwidth. I gotta find out why. When they've rethought the way they've designed this malware, that you've got to worry about east and west too. And knowing when devices that normally don't talk at like 6 a.m. started passing out all kinds of information. So knowing what's happening in your environment to where that's really, and the intent is to secure it, to be able to deliver access to wherever you are. I really like the idea that you don't have to push a VLAN around because you have a legal person that switched floors and I got to make sure they have the same access. You don't care where they are. The only thing you care about is what group they're in inside ICE to give them that access they need. Same thing if they're on wireless. They unplug. You don't have to worry about, I need to make a certain SSID because they only have access to certain stuff. Put it on there. It's all done by user base and what they can get to. Tie that into ACI. If they're accessing DC resources, does ICE allow them to go across? You have that enforcement to ensure that people trying to access resources are where they should be. So I try to give you a few minutes to gather yourself. Hopefully it didn't steal your thunder.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome, man.
I think outside of that, the other thing I want to touch on is programmability, right? We talked about orchestration on that cloud topic earlier. Programmability is becoming more and more important, not just for containers and public cloud orchestration, but campus LAN and WAN orchestration, right? And iOS XE it's open programmable. We got programmable APIs. You can run containers on the switches, right, and run applications right there on box if you need to. So that's a good indication, I think, of where the industry is going and the things that we have to start to absorb as network engineers, right? It's not as easy as going out and configuring the 10 or 20 switches we have to manage, right? We need to be able to extrapolate that out across hundreds or thousands of endpoints. I think IBN as a whole helps us, not just make the user experience better, but make the day-to administration easier in a dynamic environment like that.
Yeah. I like to use the word, so when we're talking about programmability and programming, that we're not looking to replace anybody that's doing tasks. You're doing it to make it simpler, quicker, so you can be more productive for your environment, to show more value of what you're able to do. Not so much of like, I'm going to generate this task, so then I don't execute anymore. It's a matter of I'm going to execute this task to see where this MAC address or how many, what my versions are for things. So I can actually finish designing this SD-WAN deployment, or I can actually do my like a threat response for something that's happening in my environment. You have time to do the things you need to keep things going rather than these mundane tasks that just keep popping up. The other thing I'll mention about programmability is I didn't realize how much more information you can get inside the Meraki environment if you know how to do API calls. Like you can go in the GUI, you can try and check to find the information you want, but if you know how to do an API pull from your Meraki, it's almost quicker than even going to the dashboard to find it, because you could just quickly type in your request, it come out in a text file, see what you want, and then I had not known that until I started getting really more involved with the Meraki side, that it's really amazing what you can do when you have the skills to be able to pull it out. So just something to think ahead of time of, it helps you better work with the tools that you already have, and then you can prepare for what's coming down the line too. So, all right, I think we have. Oh, go ahead, man.
No, that's good. Let's move on. I gotta get this over with. I'm gonna die.
All right, we got one more, right?
Not to rush you, Lance. I'm just looking at this bottle and like.
Why is this guy still talking? Let's go. All right, what's this last one?
Grand finale, the last dab redux. Comes in at 2 million Scovilles, has Pepper X and chocolate Pepper X in it.
I get the feeling I'm going to be answering this question. Let's see.
I hope you teed me up something easy for the last one.
I don't know. It might be the hardest one. We'll see.
It can't be much hotter than that one, right? It's only 3 times hotter.
How much hotter could it get before your tongue just literally feels nothing? Yeah. Count to 7. It'll hit you, and you're just going to crawl on the floor, get underneath your desk. What are we feeling?
It tastes hot.
It tastes like fire.
It tastes hot. And it,
all right. I'll give you a few moments.
Yeah, I made a mistake here. I'll tell you what. I cooked the chicken wings. I did this on purpose. I cooked the chicken wings, and then I sauced them, and I put them back in for like 5 minutes, let the sauce set up. I'm sure that makes it hotter. Like, that has to help the sauce set in and make us all hotter.
All right, well, here we go. We can do it. This is the last one. After this, you're all done. Are certs worth anything today? Is it something that we should still even have value for, or is it just not important?
Certs like industry certifications?
Yep. Let's say like for CCNA that just got rebranded, we also have DevNet certs now. There's also then the Microsoft certs. Like, everybody's got their own certs. CompTIA certs, all these things. Are they really important?
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. They're not the end all be all. I'm sure everybody has an anecdote about that one guy that had 3 CCNPs and couldn't even configure a switch for basic LAN connectivity. I'm sure those anomalies are out there. But I think it does lend credence to the real world, like practical capabilities of an engineer or an admin. I think as an engineer, I like them because they kind of give me a gauge of where the industry is going.
Yeah.
You mentioned the DevNet search. That's a perfect example, right? Like, Cisco has decided that DevOps for network engineers is important enough that we should build an entire certification track around it. And I think that says a lot.
The CCNA, if I understand correctly, either 10 or 15% of those questions, so let's say 1 out of every 10, 2 out of every 10, will be something around a programmability, or at least knowing something that's got like a DevNet portion of it. I don't think you have to do any coding with it, but I think you either have to recognize terms or understand like processes of it. But yeah, they've thought it was so important that they've added into their basic CCNA to actually cover DevNet rather than just doing a DevNet test. Like, they've incorporated into their normal route switching bread and butter. So it is something that Cisco sees long term, and I think industry wide, that it's good to at least know these type of things, even on the entry level, just so if you have interactions with them, you know what either vendors are talking about, what other colleagues might be talking about, either from your development team or your project management team with other vendors. So
Yeah, and kind of on that topic of technologies that are in the CCNA now, software-defined networking's in there now at a very high level, but you need to understand the concept of what it is and why it's important going forward. There's some programmability topics in there, like you said, lightweight, high-level stuff. IPv6, it's kind of getting down in the weeds, but we need to understand how to read and subnet IPv6 addresses now. And I think putting that into a vendor certification really helps to validate that to network engineers and network architects. So, yeah, I mean, I think it's important for that reason. Definitely.
I still think it gives
Definitely.
you a competitive advantage. So if you're, and this is more from a trying to obtain a job or to continue to show value when you're reaching out for that, to where, oh, okay, you both have experience, you both did the same thing, and it shows that, oh, he also invested time on some certs. I think that from a hiring aspect, now I'm not a hiring manager or anything like that, but I always felt like if I had that in my toolkit, it would help me have a better advantage to at least get into the door to then sell yourself to whoever you're going to be interviewing with. You got to at least, paper's always nice, but trying to show that you've got those tools for it to at least just once you get in to sell yourself after that, to be able to show the value that you can bring. But I think it still helps to know what's relevant, to be able to use that. I always laugh because when I was still in the customer side, if you ever said, I'm going to get my CCNA, they're like, are you leaving? They never thought it was just to stay current. So
Right.
I still think they are of value. I mean, I don't think you bend over backwards to achieve them. If they help you continue with your day to day and to know what's going on, to stay relevant with either new technologies that pop up, definitely go for them. But just, yeah, like you say, it's not the end all be all.
So what certs are you looking to pursue or you have today? Or are you
I'm so,
looking to get
mine will
with the
be,
new set?
my goal is to take the CCNA and then try to do a study class with some of my customers, either through like Teams or just email threads, and stay up to date about, when I took it, here are the things that I saw, pass it down, do knowledge base and spread to help everybody else know it. And then, I don't know, I think the DevNet is interesting. I'd like to kind of see where they put that to. Like I said, getting exposed to Meraki and knowing if you know those API calls, you can make your environment so much stronger just by pulling information without knowing where to click. So I kind of like that.
I'm thinking the same thing. I'm due to re-up my CCNA route switch
Yep.
this year. I think November or December. But I'm thinking about going and taking one of the DevNet tests and doing that instead. And as a network engineer, even a network engineer that has scripted for a long time, because I was really blessed early on. My mentors were really into like scripting before scripting was cool, using Tickle and Expect and a lot of different scripting languages. Basically to do all of the management and monitoring for their networks back then. So I was kind of an early adopter, but even in that case, I read the objectives. It's a little intimidating, right? There's a lot of software engineering topics on there, and Gits and different code maintenance type topics that I don't know, even though I've been scripting for years. So there's still a lot of ground to make up, but I think it's definitely a good skill set to have going forward.
All right, I'm going to steal the ball real fast. Congratulations.
I did it.
You did it, man. I just want to make sure everybody is aware that we do have Cisco Live that's going to be happening digitally this year. If you have not yet, please go to Cisco Live, register, and then the catalog is actually out, so you can now start selecting the courses you want to pay attention to during this time. I think the way we're setting this up is like 3 Cisco Live TV streams, and you kind of pick which one you're going to access. And I think that all this is still going to be on afterwards. So if you miss any of them, just like you normal, you can come back a couple weeks after and then access the videos you want. But if you haven't, go ahead and register now. I think that's really the biggest thing we've got.
Yep, I think live being online is huge this year. I was actually just going to look at my calendar because I think that actually falls the week of our next multicast. So before our next multicast. I'm glad you mentioned that now because we're not going to do this again until after. But yeah, I think it's a great opportunity. You know, a lot of places and folks don't want to take a week to go out to Vegas, wherever live is hosted, and spend the money to do that. So this is a great opportunity to be able to experience it from home.
Yeah.
You know,
it's hard to get your company sometimes to even approve that training. Like sometimes that's the only thing you get though a year too is you live, and then if it's canceled, so at least we're still going to try and deliver that context if we can. And then for our next multicast, we're actually going to do a checklist with everybody. We're going to show up a presentation. We're going to go through the process of how we're in securing your environment. So it's supposed to be vendor agnostic. It's just flowing through data flows, where you have those check and balances. If you follow along with us, you can fill this out, and then make sure if you want, schedule time with your SE, and we can make sure we go through these and then provide you a copy of it afterwards. But that's the plan for the 2 weeks from now is we'll hit that up. Jay and I will be presenting for Cisco Live, so we might be kind of busy. No, I'm joking.
Are you telling me security is an onion and we can even build a checklist around that?
Exactly. I should have saved that for the last one.
I shouldn't have said that many words.
Which one was probably the hottest? Was it actually the last one, or?
I think it might have been the Widowmaker was the hottest.
Yeah. And then
at least at the time.
Most flavor, second one, the pineapple one.
My favorite was the pineapple habanero. That was really good.
All right.
I might have to put that in a Bloody Mary once I get out to the lake this weekend.
Well, thank you, Jay, for presenting this for us and giving this for our entertainment.
Yeah, thanks, everybody. I appreciate it. And if you need anything, give us a shout. Otherwise, have a great Memorial weekend, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Take care, everybody. Thank you.